Chair and members of the committee. So I'll start by addressing an issue that was brought up before. If you had this, if this law did not include restriction to people participating in a protest or demonstration, if it was applied equally to people on the St. Patrick's Day parade and people who are jaywalking, in addition to large marches that go down the street, then I would not be up here testifying against it. I might think it might be bad policy, but I wouldn't think it was a bad enough idea that I would speak against it. But I am troubled by it singling out protests, including cases where you just have a march that's so big it needs to go down the street and it does block traffic for a while. I don't think it's good to have a law like this that applies in that kind of case. So it's, let me give you an example. We all agree that a car that's going the wrong way on the street is a safety issue. But if we had a law that said when a car is going the wrong way on the street, another driver who exercises due care shall be immune from liability, I don't think that law is a good idea. Because what it does is it encourages the other drivers who are driving the right way to be a little more reckless and be more willing to drive in a way that might risk a collision. I don't think that's a good idea. So I would think that this kind of bill is not a good idea in terms of policy. And the key phrase here in this bill is exercising due care. And unfortunately, that phrase can be interpreted in different ways. I think it means one thing to a legal mind, to somebody in court, and it means something else to the average driver. If the average driver may feel like if the average driver says, hears that it's okay for him to go get into a collision as long as he's exercising due care, the driver may have his own view of what due care is. It's kind of like the phrase, with all due respect. You hear people saying with all due respect when it's pretty clear they don't mean any respect.
Just for the record, Mr. Rose, we only care about the legal definition of due care.
Okay.
This is a law, so that's what we're doing.
Thank you. I understand. But let me just transition to the how the law will interpret it. If you have a driver who is sitting on a street in Providence and his path is blocked by a large march that's taken a while to cross, and he decides that it's okay for him, due to this law, he's exercising due care, and it's okay for him to push forward slowly 1 or 2 miles per hour with his car in an effort to get through. I think that risks escalating the situation. I think it leads to unpredictable results. He might think he's being slow enough, but it might end up knocking people over for reasons that he hasn't predicted or causes that are not visible to him at the time. And generally a good guideline in making traffic law is you try to avoid escalation. You try to make rules that don't encourage people to take things into their own hands and not to inflame situations further. So I don't think that kind of law is a good policy, even if it wasn't singling out protests. In protests are already an inflamed situation because drivers may sharply disagree with the signs or the message of the protest, and it's something that would be a law that would be only mildly likely to inflame things in other situations is much more likely to inflame things in a situation of protest. So I think it's especially unwise for that reason. It's kind of like the stand your ground law. When the statistics show that when the stand your ground law was passed, even though it was meant to only legalize gun use in the most justifiable situations, people took it as a reason to escalate gun use in other situations, and you saw an increase in unjustifiable homicides as a result. And I think in the real world, that's going to be the effect of this kind of law. I know this law is presented as trying to protect safety, but I think the effect of it is going to reduce situation because it encourages people to do darn fool things like pushing forward with their car at a couple miles per hour or what they think is a couple miles per hour, and it's likely to lead to bad consequences. So for those reasons, I'm opposing this bill. Thank you.